Hi, everybody. Welcome. Sam Adams here in the mayor's office. We're going to let people sort of load in as attendees. So we'll start in just a few minutes. Glad you're here. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you joining. Again, I'm Sam Adams in Mayor Wheeler's office. We are recorded, so know that if you're staying on, this will be recorded so that others that could not attend could look at it later. We'll post it on the mayor's website in the next day or so, tomorrow. So the purpose of inviting you to have this conversation relates to our interest to do the, as council approved last week through the passage of three resolutions that set new policy for the city. And one of the key parts of that policy is geographically phased in ban on unsanctioned camping citywide. And obviously we need places for those people that are currently living unhoused throughout our city to give them a place to go. The creation of what was originally 3 designated camping sites that could be as large as 500 occupants each. So that was changed as part of the council discussion to have 6 designated camping sites throughout the city that would have 2 camps in them for a total occupancy of no more than 250 individuals. We're going to be starting with 1 camp of up to 150 individuals at these 6 sites. Our goal is to roll this out, including the phased-in ban of camping, phased in geographically, again, camping, to roll that out and have it completed within the next 18 months. The reason that the mayor and co-sponsor Dan Ryan moved this forward is really focused on the humanitarian crisis that is being faced by those that are unhoused. Currently, there are about 800 camps spread and scattered throughout the 146 square miles that is the city of Portland. And the waiting list to get into some affordable housing, based on analysis we did with Home Forward, can be upwards of an average of 5 years. So we have a lot of Portlanders living unhoused in these unsanctioned camps of 3 or more tents, up to 800 across 146 square miles that are out living outdoors, too far out of reach for us to provide any sort of meaningful, plentiful, basic services, much less mental health services and physical illness services and substance abuse, addiction recovery services. And that last issue is really critical because overall overdose deaths, housed and unhoused in the last 3 years, is up 588%. The other two factors for seeking to co-locate more people into these designated camping sites is to bring what services are available, definitely basic sanitary services, but again, mental health, physical health, and substance abuse recovery services, is to bring, co-locate and bring more of Portland's unhoused closer to what services are available. This is definitely a partnership project. The other bit of background is the mayor about a year ago worked with the Oregon Mayors Association to create a statewide consortium of Oregon mayors that are dealing with similar issues that we're dealing with here in Portland. And they lobbied the state legislature a year ago to get the first ever direct funding for most cities, direct funding to help cities deal with the outside camping issues that they were facing. We asked for 25 and got funding for 25 million through this coalition last year. This year, that coalition of Oregon mayors statewide has grown, and we're asking for $150 million. So today, the mayor, who's will be joining us to thank you for participating in this discussion. He'll be thanking you for doing that. He right now today is in a budget work session, and he is about 6 minutes ago proposed to his colleagues on the city council a $38 million funding package that helps to move forward the goals and the operations proposed, and this new reform to how houseless people experiencing houselessness are mattered. That $38 million will help is a down payment on getting these designated camping sites up and running, but it will still take resources from our partners in Multnomah County, Metro that funds through Multnomah County, and state government to fully realize the vision of those 5 resolutions. And the key resolution, the first resolution among the package of 5, was the city creating a goal of building 20,000 units of affordable housing by 2033, and taking a different approach in terms of getting land to do that by looking at public land. So it would not be acting on our values. It would not be solving the problem if this work to end unsanctioned camping, co-locating those experiencing houselessness, so that we have a fighting chance to get basic services, mental health, physical and drug addiction recovery services, which we now again can't do when there's so much scattered sites, camps. But we wouldn't really be solving things if we weren't simultaneously trying to get services, folks closer to services without that building more affordable housing. So for us, those are hand in glove, very important. So I'm going to take you through a PowerPoint. I think the mayor is going to join us shortly. And after he joins us, take you through a PowerPoint of some of the what we hope are safeguards for those that might be part of a neighborhood or business district that would be hosting one of these designated camping sites or nearby. And I encourage you to think about, to act and react and ask questions and raise concerns today based on as if your neighborhood, your business district, your area of town actually is going to receive one of these things. No decisions have been made on sites, but we really want to do everything we can to provide great services to those in the designated camping sites, but also to the neighborhoods that host these sites. You all know Mayor Ted Wheeler.
Hi, where do I look? Oh, down there. Okay. Sorry, I'm in the middle of releasing my fall budget to the city council right now, but I just wanted to pop in and thank all of you for participating in this today. I'd hoped to be here at the beginning of the meeting, so I apologize for popping into Sam's office a little late here. I just wanted to thank you. I want to thank the neighborhood associations, the business district associations, staff, volunteers, and other folks who are on this call. Obviously, the biggest issue facing the city of Portland is the homeless crisis. It is it's not only a humanitarian catastrophe for people who are living on the streets, it's also the greatest existential threat to the livability and the economic viability of the city, in my opinion. Therefore, it's important that we act with urgency. It's important that we act at the scale that will address this issue. Poll after poll after poll has shown that this is the #1 issue for the people of this city. And so we have to be aggressive. We have to act at scale. We have to do everything we can to connect people, as many people as possible, to services. And we need to go about the business of reducing and ultimately eliminating self-directed, unsanctioned camps in the city of Portland. In order to do that, everybody's going to have to throw in. Everybody's going to have to make some sacrifices around the edges. There's no question that if we establish these camps, they have to be located somewhere. The purpose of today's discussion is really to ask you, if there's one somewhere near your business district, near your neighborhood association, what are your expectations of us in terms of safety, in terms of keeping things clean, in terms of the surrounding areas, in terms of litter collection and other services? What would you expect us to be doing? And how would you suggest that we hold ourselves accountable and work with you and partner with you to make this successful? So that's really the genesis of today's discussion. I realize this is a tough one for everybody. None of us want to be in the position where we have to do this, but you know what? We have to do this. This is an important issue, and I want to get it resolved. 3 or 4 years from now, I want to be able to look back on this and say we worked together and we got it done. So I just want to thank you for your service and your continued patience and forbearance. And I hope this conversation turns out to be productive. This isn't the only conversation. There'll be many more to be had. But we just wanted to get in front of you right now, up front, and hear your perspectives on this. So thank you for that. And Sam, I'll get out of your way and
Thanks, Mayor.
your office. You bet. Thank you.
Go get the money.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to get into go through a PowerPoint presentation that anticipates some questions, but I don't think we've anticipated all the questions, and give you a sense of our goals related to safety. If your neighborhood, your part of town is going to be hosting one of these designated camps. So I want to be able to focus on what your questions are. And so a colleague on the mayor's team, one of my coworkers, Cody, has agreed to facilitate questions. And so Cody, you want to reveal yourself, please?
Thanks, Sam. So my name is Cody Bowman, and I go by he, him pronouns, and I serve as the communications lead here in the mayor's office. I'm going to help facilitate this conversation. I have just a few technical items to go over before we get started. There's 2 ways that you'll be able to engage with staff, with Sam. One way is you can use the raise your hand function, and we will call on you and unmute you so that you can verbally ask your question. Or you can use the Q&A function. So there's a bottom located at the bottom of the Zoom dashboard. It says Q&A. You can type in your question. Those questions get loaded into a list that we have access to, and I can share those with Sam as well. We'll kind of move back and forth between listening to questions verbally or going through the written comments as well. When you're asking a question, it'd be great if you could say your name and identify if you're representing an organization. Please limit your questions and comments to 1 if you can, so that we can get to as many folks as possible. And we just hope that this is a positive or a fruitful conversation. So we're going to try to refrain from shouting or using vulgar language. If we have a big disruption, you may be muted or ejected from the meeting, but we'll hopefully not have to do anything like that. And like Sam said at the beginning, just be aware that we are recording this meeting. So with that, I'll pass it over to Sam.
Great, and if we could pull up the PowerPoint. So ask questions as we go along. I think I'll run through the PowerPoint. If you want to ask me additional questions, feel free to send an email. It's also on the mayor's website, sam.adams@portlandoregon.gov. We've got 90 minutes today, but we want to get to all your questions. All right, so I'm going to go through this and then go to the questions. So as we go through each slide, feel free, put your questions in about that particular slide, and we'll come back to the slide if we have to. So the mayor talked about, why this is being proposed. This 800 self-sided unsanctioned encampments across the 146 square miles of Portland, a 5 to 10 year average wait for housing, according to Home Forward analysis. That's a snapshot of part of the available housing, but we think is an important snapshot. It's also important to note that 63% of homeless Portlanders suffer from mental health issues, and drug overdoses, as I mentioned, in the last 3 years among all housed and unhoused is up 588%. And if I could just underscore as is true across cities across the United States, the advent of these very cheap pills, synthetic opioids that can, depending on what is in them, can keep someone up for 3 days, and psychosis and other problems follow that in addition to overdoses. The last bullet, providers engage in daily outreach that, since the mayor's emergency declaration of, I believe, last March, the city has had its own staff reaching out to houseless people, those that we were looking to move their tents or to move their tent encampments, asking, and we've offered them, we can now offer them because of the mayor's emergency declaration. We now know the daily availability of shelter beds, where those available shelter beds are at. We're able to, when we're talking to someone experiencing houselessness, offer them a reservation there. We also added, with the mayor's emergency declaration, on-demand transportation for them and their personal belongings to that shelter provider, and then the remainder of their belongings go to a city storage facility that are stored free of charge that they can pick up for 30 days. So our offer before this, and the county's offer before this, was much more anemic. So we've improved the offer, I think made it much more realistic for someone to say yes. And since we've been having our own providers, we've been asking folks, that we probably get maybe less than 2 out of 10 folks say they want to go to a shelter. And most of them decline. And when we ask them, what would be attractive to you? This is not scientific. This is very qualitative. Think of it as a focus group based on feedback from our outreach workers. About 60% said, just give me a place, to pitch my tent. Hopefully there are basic services. And so we think that the designated camping area option, although we didn't ask them specifically about that, but the idea of being able to continue to camp outdoors as opposed to going to an inside shelter is going to be more appealing to more people. All right, next slide, please. So what services are being proposed at these 6 managed designated camping sites that we are looking to place throughout the city? We're working hard and talking to owners of sites, and we've been doing outreach to have a diversity of locations across the city. We're working hard to get a west side, the river location as well. So that's that. But what are some of the services that are being proposed? And again, these are aspirational. We've been talking to providers, so they're on this list because we think they're possible. And we want to fine tune them and improve them, but this is kind of where we're aimed, what we're looking for. So obviously sanitation facilities, bathrooms, showers, place for refrigerated food and a microwave, We're looking to offer 2 full meals and a heavy snack. Security, 24-hour security. We'll talk about that in greater detail in a minute. But 24-hour security, both inside the camp, 15-to-1 ratio, in addition to 1,000 feet that I'll talk about in a second on the perimeter. We are in negotiations with the county, and the mayor will be meeting with the mayor-elect next Wednesday to talk about also the co-location of physical, mental, and behavioral health services, also navigation, how they can find housing, or if they want to go into build shelter. Our aim is to have these sites within the city, not necessarily in the furthest flung sort of parts of the city, but also ideally the sites are as far away from residential and business districts as possible. There'll be no self-preparation of meals that can't be microwaved, no cooking, no fires. Again, meals will be provided. And again, 1,000 feet, no camping perimeter around these designated sites, and part of the staffing will be for patrol of that 1,000 feet perimeter. And we'll talk about security in even more detail in just a minute. But that's the basics of what is being proposed. Next slide, please. How many campers will each site serve? Initially, again, 100 tents for up to 150 people. That accounts for couples. And then for us to add a second camp within each of these campuses that can hold 2 camps. So for us to go from 100 tents to 200 tents, we will have to come back to City Council in a public hearing where you and others, if this is in your neighborhood, will be able to comment to get that authorization to do so for an additional 100 tents for up to 250 people after the first phase. So there's accountability from going on us, public hearing, from 100 tents to 200 tents. Next slide. What criteria will be used to approve residents? That second bullet is important. We're intending for this to be low barrier. We want to meet people where they're at in their lives, but it's adults. They have to be referred by outreach workers. There's no walk-ins allowed. Part of this proposal also has that the mayor is proposing and the council is debating right now would add 50 outreach workers that would become city staff outreach workers to help make sure that when we get to enforcement, that the enforcement with outreach workers, offering the option, screening people, that we've got lots of outreach workers. It's been a real challenge for the county to hire up outreach workers from nonprofits. We're all sort of fighting for employees, so we think outreach workers that are city staff that we would have a better that has higher pay and the benefits that come with being a city staff, that we'll have better luck at getting outreach workers and keeping them for longer periods of time where they get to know this issue in each part of town, where they get to know individuals on the street and can develop as much as possible a relationship, which is really key, offering that hope and then actual steps and paths forward for folks to get off the street. It is, like I said, low barrier, but for those that are clear and present danger to themselves or others, they would be removed and taken to facilities that are better equipped to deal with them. This is not an anonymous camping system. We are definitely embracing the Built for Zero model, taking a public health approach, a new sort of turn of the page, a public health approach to the issue of houselessness in the city of Portland. If you have any familiarity with the current system, there are a lot of great nonprofits and different services offered around the city. We want to be able to do more client-centered treatment, more client-centered interventions by medical professionals, and that requires us to collect names and date of birth to be able to track people and hopefully help them through the system. And this would be added to initially, if you want to get into the details, the HMIS data system that currently exists, but the county has a contract with Built for Zero for them to provide for us a much more robust data system. And in the council resolutions that were approved last week, the city council take a firm approach. A public health approach is being able to do client-centered interventions, client-centered health, and that means names and basic identification. New slide, please. How will these be managed? So this is a little more on security. The service provider will manage these cams, both 1,000-foot perimeter and inside the camp 24/7. Every year, the staffing client ratio is 15:1. That is higher than some providers that are available currently in the Pacific Northwest. We think that high ratio is really important for safety and success. Weapons will be checked at one entrance. These camps will have one entrance and exit. There'll be a zero tolerance policy for weapons, like knives and guns inside the camp. Those must be checked. Alcohol and drugs cannot be consumed in common areas. Public spaces cannot be consumed within 1,000 feet of the perimeter of each of these camps. And again, no cooking of fires are allowed. We'll be providing the meals. Next slide. Again, and I understand the concerns around this. Tents and camps will not be around the perimeter of the site. Our goal is again 1,000 feet, no camping with a perimeter around the site. As part of, I saw one of the questions come up. We will absolutely have a community agreement with surrounding business districts and neighborhood associations. Our goal, we think we have providers that we're getting out on RFP in the days ahead, asking for this 1,000 feet perimeter that is part of the camp crew. So you have the same nonprofit doing the 1,000 feet proactive, 2 people patrolling 1,000 feet around the camp. We've talked to some providers that we want the folks in the neighborhood leaders to have the phone numbers of folks that are on staff in the camps. So you're not suffering through 911, trying to get through 911 and looking for a police response. We're looking for providers that provide the security. They'll call the police when they need to, but we're looking for providers that can handle a lot of these issues. And again, we're looking for providers that have a direct connection and can get flagged directly by the surrounding community. In addition to that, we're looking at in addition to that, so there's obviously the provider inside the designated camping area, the 1,000 feet, same contractor is what we hope. But in addition to that, for the around every one of these designated camping areas, there's going to be a neighborhood Main Street nearby. There could be a transit center nearby that's outside the 1,000 foot perimeter. Could also, touch in the 1,000 foot perimeter. So also in this budget is for neighborhood association and business districts to money for them, or we can provide it. We can hire security that would provide security in areas that are sort of natural gathering places for all people. And so, that would be at least security, depends on how much it costs, but at least security in the evening hours when we find there's a lot of property crime, and we know that folks are small businesses across the city and neighbors are suffering from a lot of property crime. So in addition to the 1,000 feet, then there would be private security either provided by the city, or we would give those resources to the neighborhood association or business district or community-based organization to manage. So that's a little bit about the perimeter. Next slide, please. I absolutely, my team and I have been, along with Commissioner Ryan's team, have been sort of lead on enforcement of existing rules. And you might recall the mayor has used emergency declarations as soon as the pandemic restrictions were lifted, and our ability to manage camping more assertively. How will it be enforced? So camp removals. So the mayor had an emergency declaration that said no camping along high crash corridors because, 8 out of 10 people getting hit by cars were folks that that were not domiciled, so likely houseless. So that was the first emergency declaration. The second emergency declaration was no camping on safe routes to and from schools. And so the number of camps removed was way up. But part of the reason we're going to a geographically phased in ban is a lot of folks said no to our offer of built shelter. So we think folks will want to find designated, some folks find designated camping areas more attractive, but then a lot of folks, most folks just sort of moved across the neighborhood or what have you. So that's a key reason. And again, with getting folks closer, curated, closer, co-located. So what services are available, mental health, drug addiction, physical health services, we can be more efficient and get more people close to that. So again, 24-hour phone line at the camp for folks that are identified as taking complaints from the community. We have the Street Services Coordination Center and the Impact Reduction Team, and they will be managing both the outreach workers, which are in addition to the private security, in addition to the 15-to-1 camp operator personnel. So we are setting up these particular contracts, and these camps will be run directly by the city. The Safe Rest Villages we've provided almost all the money for Safe Rest Villages, and those have been managed by the Joint Office. The Safe Rest, this assumes the completion of the Safe Rest Villages because they will be sort of the next step above the designated camping sites and getting people into services and housing as it becomes available. Next slide, please. How will businesses and residents that are neighboring these be supported? So this is just kind of a summary. Service provider will patrol the area surrounding the site 16 hours a day, every day, with an emphasis on the evenings and after hours. Service provider will engage regularly with surrounding residents. We want them to show up at your community-based organization, at your business district meetings, at your your neighborhood meetings. There's the phone line that will be automatically go to who is ever the supervisor is on site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And again, I already mentioned the third bullet in hiring private security for the natural gathering sites outside the 1,000-foot perimeter. Next slide, please. And those are our slides. So we will go to the questions. Cody.
All right, great. So just a reminder, you can use the Q&A function to type in a question, or you can just raise your hand and we can call on you. I'm not seeing anybody so far with a hand raised.
I think we're relying, Cody, actually on written questions just to be able to keep track of them.
Okay. Let me use let's just go through these one by one. So Zach Powers
Can you
asked,
start at the top?
yep. So Guy Berliner says, has anybody on the council ever suggested offering material incentives to existing neighbors adjacent to proposed designated sites, such as consideration on city fees to incentivize greater acceptance and de-incentivize NIMBYism?
Can we scroll so that the question that you're asking is on the screen and we can all read it?
Yes, let me work to figure out how to do that. If you could do the first question, I'll figure that out in the background.
Yeah, could you repeat the question? It was a good, sophisticated question.
So has anybody on the council ever suggested offering material incentives?
Oh, I can do
Yeah.
that. I can do this part. Sorry, everybody. Appreciate the information. Sam, I'm glad to be invited multiple times. Bridget Bear. Yes, Bridget. Can you hear me? Char? No, Char. Put your question in the chat here. Good day. Thanks for holding an important meeting to discuss. Hello, Char webinar mode. We're going to invite you 10 times and answer your question 17 times. We're supposed to be able to see everyone or just the speaker, because we have such a big crowd, we had to go to sort of a different level of Zoom. Even at the 30-person safe rest, villages are not providing safety and mental health support. Just 2 weeks ago, resident of the Queer Affinity Village had his skull and cheekbones fractured while the staff looked on and failed to intervene. Yeah, so we definitely are incorporating lessons learned in the rollout of the safe rest villages, and these are bigger camps. The designated camping sites are bigger camps, so that's why we are. Our goal, as you've just heard, is to provide security based on the 15-to-1 ratio, outside the camp perimeter 1,000 feet, and then on top of that, private security and natural gathering places. Another of my employees was beaten up a few months back at another all good managed village, was severely beaten when he sought to protect a gay resident from homophobic attack. Again, staff by and watched. So the providers that we're talking to will not be sitting by and watching. And so again, our RFP going out, we're looking for providers that are providing both human sort of services, in addition to the specialized services, and also that are providing security. Shouldn't you be using part of the $280 million you already have that only 56 million has been used? I'll have to get, if you could email me this question, that would be great. Lisa, give me just a little more context if you would. Mark, does public land for more affordable housing, meaning using parklands? It could. Everything's being looked at. We're working with school districts. We're looking with imagine the parking lots on parks. You know, can we keep the parking below and build housing on top? You know, as one that other cities have done. We know that parkland is much valued, and so this will be a very public process in terms of taking feedback. We have to come up with close to 400 sites so that we can land bank these sites and then go out and seek the funding where we can get it. If people are scattered, this is KM. If people are scattered, is that due to the removals, aka street sweeps, that move folks' resources to the outer edge of the city, such as moving people from Old Town, where there are places like Blanchet and PGM? I think it could be. I think the lack of access to services. So before we did, I'm going to get this exactly wrong, but I think the number of, again, 3 or more tents, even before example, we did removal of houseless camps in Old Town in a pretty large scale. I think the number of houseless camps scattered was, upwards of 600. So some might have been displaced, and all the more reason to co-locate them and get them closer to what services we do have. If the city offered material, and there we go. If the city offered material incentives for neighborhoods hosting temporary housing for people, that could mitigate NIMBYism. Has anyone thought about that? Yes. So what, you'll tell me what you mean if you want to email me on what you mean by material incentives. But in terms of the greater safety, for example, private patrols on neighborhood main streets or gathering areas, that'll make everything safer for everyone. But if there are other material incentives that you think would be useful for neighborhoods, guys, send me an email or put it in the chat there. In addition, employees who reside in an all good managed safe rest facility, 30 watch staff that were paid $25 an hour, hanging out and not doing anything except for formal hour-long meetings once a week. Instead, they sit around playing cards. I have 3 employees who have spent over a year in one of these SR safe rest villages. They work at my organization. Not once have my staff successfully helped them. Not once have staff successfully helped them with services from dental care, even though they are working in safe rest villages. They've not found them housing. That's good feedback to get, and I will follow up with the county staff that are supervising the contractors. Nothing against the county, but we've been thinking for these designated camping areas that having that accountability directly with city staff, directly with the mayor's office and Commissioner Ryan's office, and not having the intermediary of the county who does great work, but we think we can better ensure quality control and respond to these kinds of issues by having that direct relationship with the nonprofit provider and sort of not having the county as the intermediary, which has lots of work to do. Where the starting camp going to, okay, so this is Ken. Where is the starting camp going to be located, even though no sites have been designated yet? And what is the vision? So the first camp, we're out looking for 6 sites, 6 sites. And we're talking to a lot more than 6 to get to 6, but no decision has been made for the first camps. We'll have an update for you in the coming days. What I've envisioned is when we get a letter of intent between a potential site owner and us that we're both interested, but it's a non-binding, a letter of intent is a non-binding document, but it shows goodwill. My goal would then to sit down with the neighborhood, with the business districts, with community-based organizations around that one site, and obviously go into greater detail to put together a good neighbor agreement and to make it accountable. So that every hosting area of town, we sit down with you all, and I hope that my goal would be to have the provider selected for that site. So you're not just talking to me or other folks that are out in the field, but we're all sitting down with the provider. And before we actually go from a letter of intent to an actual signed lease. Sandra again asked, this is an expensive plan. Instead, why aren't you investing in Move in Multnomah that housed 215 people in 4 months before they ran out of funding? This is not a cheap plan, that is for sure. Interventions in this area tend to be expensive because we're dealing with people's lives. And there is no better intervention to houselessness. There's no better intervention than housing. but with this, we're in a 5-year waiting list, and we could offer, and what we want to do is to help people get ready for housing. And again, this plan includes the building, the goal of building 20,000 units of affordable housing. So it does both. But right now, can be a 5 to 9 year waiting list to get into housing. And so that combined with houseless folks, don't prefer the built shelter. We'll find out as we test this. They prefer to continue to be outside. Those are some of the reasons that we think affordable housing is really important, but there's a waiting list to get into that. And it's a long and deep waiting list. Knowing that Portland Police Bureau is understaffed, will having these localized sites make it easier or more difficult to them? Definitely, they believe it'll be easier. You're right, we're at a 28-year low per capita for police personnel. When the mayor and you'll be hearing soon where we are having more luck than we had before in recruitment for armed officers. We have a long way to go before we feel like we're providing a level of crime prevention and safety that the city deserves, but we're, along with houselessness, public safety, community safety is critically important. We're working hard on the gun violence as well with Safe Summer PDX. So there's a lot of opportunities for improvement, but co-locating folks where they can get more services, hopefully more folks into mental health opportunities and into substance abuse disorder recovery. That is fueling, our belief is that is fueling a lot of the crime that's going on. So getting them more services to help them make other choices, be able to make other choices is definitely part of our thinking. And the Police Bureau has been very supportive of this approach. Kaya, would it make more sense to begin with services and resources being implemented before enforcing the anti-camping ordinances and creating those encampments that may take anywhere from 2 to 4 years? Look at how long the SRVs have taken and issues have cited. I guess, again, today, literally the city council, last week, council passed policy changes. Today, they're in a work session on funding a down payment to get this started. They'll be taking a vote on that next week. I'm in conversations with a dozen potential property owners. We have an RFP going out for providers that are committed to providing at least are open to providing the kinds of assurances that I've given you today. And once we have, and because we're going to be doing the sweeps by geography, then I feel that this is a way to move forward as expeditiously and compassionately and more outreach workers, hopefully the county, hopefully with more support from Metro. The governor-elect has signed off on this plan, has publicly supported this plan in debates. So we are hoping to get resources from the state through the Oregon Mayors Association. So it isn't just benefiting Portland, but all Oregon cities facing this. We feel the urgency and we're acting with urgency. Melanie asked, we will be given the PowerPoint to share with neighborhood associations. Absolutely. Yeah. And out of this, we might add some things to it because you're asking good questions. Guy asked, I would expect the city to offer material incentives to neighborhood, funding for public services, consideration in regard to city's fees or other measures to mitigate the cost, period cost. Again, Guy emailed me specifics of what, again, material services. I've or other safeguards that come to mind, certainly take a look at them. 7 years ago, a different mayor asked each neighborhood association provide a site for a camp. Because I don't know, 7 years ago, Tom, I was working at an environmental think tank in Washington, DC. So give me some more background on that and how it worked out. SOTR. In the future, you need to also invite nonprofits and organizations who build community with people and house. This has been only sent to neighborhood associations and feels intentionally excluded. Yeah, we're going to continue to do that outreach. This is especially as our talks with the county continue. Again, I think we've made contact with over 600 folks that were experiencing houselessness with our own outreach workers, smaller group than we're proposing to hire. So we feel like we've had an ongoing sort of listening session in those conversations and keeping track of what they said. And they reported that back, and I reported that at the top of the meeting. But a lot of folks want to continue to if they're going to have to be houseless, a lot of folks continue to want to be outside. And one of the products that we're offering, a lot of the product that we're offering now is inside build shelter that is also very important. We'll continue to work with those folks. We've done a lot of research on this as well, in addition to the questions that we've made from our outreach workers. But we'll continue to work with providers and advocates for houseless folks. Will you be negotiating good neighbor agreements prospectively with neighborhood and business districts and community-based organizations geographically? Absolutely. And again, so we're not wasting our time or your time when we have an initial sort of, we're kind of interest, we're eyeing each other with that. Again, it's called a letter of intent from a property owner and the team that's evaluating these potential sites on our side. And once we have LOIs, as we refer to them, letter of intent signed, then that will be our opportunity to go talk to that surrounding stakeholders in that surrounding neighborhood. Bridget, can we meet Cody visually? I don't know. We'll have to ask Cody. Chris, cut off your name, Christy. How are you going to manage with care 250 people in one location? There's a lot of complexity, and it's not fair to participants in surrounding neighborhoods and businesses. So the mayor and a group of folks recently took to look at larger camps, and they took a day trip down to Los Angeles area to look at the larger camps that are in parts of Los Angeles. And I think, most folks came back very impressed with some of the providers that they met with in terms of the condition of the camps, what residents of the camps had to say. And the key that they said, and again, we're starting out though, just to be extra safe, we're starting out with 100 tents in each location, and then keeping track of, all the data, the evidence issues. There are going to be some issues, but want to minimize them as much as possible. To go from 100 tents and 150 people, we have to come back to council and get explicit permission to extend beyond that initial 150 people, 100 tents. So we are we're being thoughtful before we go all the way up to 250 people in one location. And what other experts who have successfully run and providers run, that 15-to-1 staff ratio is really, really important. The perimeter CERT, the perimeter outreach, just not waiting for a complaint, but that 1,000-foot perimeter, very important as well. And then we've added the private security on top of that. 1 year ago, I suggested, this is Sally, 1 year I suggested declaring a state of emergency. Here we go again, talking, not doing. Why not use FEMA and the National Guard? So Sally, over the past, I've been back 15 months. One of the first things I looked into are sort of the legal opportunities and barriers for FEMA. So that's a federal emergency. There's also, the governor has a statewide emergency capability. And again, as The governor-elect has said she is willing to declare state of emergency statewide to help lean into addressing the issue of outdoor houselessness. But sadly, we've not found any paths to get a federal emergency declared. We've talked to other cities as well. It's not set up, unfortunately, to do that, even though this is not dissimilar from, you know, other folks in a community being, you know, flooded out or what have you, and then the federal government comes in with state government to provide them immediate services and shelter. We've not found a way to do that, but you don't need a federal emergency for a governor to declare a state emergency. And again, we'll be meeting with the governor-elect next week to discuss sort of trading notes on that and how she can help. And we're very grateful that all three candidates for governor endorsed this plan that we're talking about today, the mayor and Commissioner Ryan's plan. Dominic asks, what are you doing to increase permanent affordable housing in the Portland area? Connect individuals' family to services great, but not if they don't have a place to go. Service providers, case managers, couldn't agree with you more. That's why voters passed the Metro Housing Services measure that has ramped up significant funding to provide services and vouchers. And that's why this plan, one of the 5 resolutions that were approved by council, has us getting public land banked for affordable housing, which we have never done before. We're going to go into the state legislature. That will be the leadership. The governor has talked about affordable housing being a key focus. When the mayor met with Portland delegation for state legislators, they know that you know, we've got to build more affordable housing. So the legislature can help us with local funding options to make that happen. They can also increase statewide funding for affordable housing. But this plan absolutely front and center, the first resolution, 20,000 units of affordable housing. We're taking a different, by 2033, and we're taking a different approach than we have in the past. And I've been around city government a long time, and I feel cautiously optimistic about this new approach that we're taking. Thank you for visiting LA and learning what is being done to address the severe urban problem. Let's work with other cities to implement solutions that work. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Fred. Fred, good to see you, or good to get your question. Yeah, we've been spending time with Denver, Salt Lake, Houston, Seattle, San Francisco. There's a trip to Nashville, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee. And we're going to continue to do that and to stay in touch. Thanks for the encouragement. Cody, where is your photo online for this? Mother and child. Cody, you're mysterious to everybody. Let's start with city-owned golf courses that are operating in the red for sanctioned campsites. We'll be looking at city-owned golf courses. We're looking at all public property when it comes to affordable housing. Can we fit affordable housing on the campus of the publicly owned golf courses? We are not looking at designated camping areas for the existing operating publicly owned golf courses. At this time, we're not looking at those sites. Neil, I'd like to know more about the process and timeline for selecting locations from camps. Yeah, so the process is underway. The selecting locations, again, is it's got to be the right size. We're looking for bigger sites in the past. Again, we're trying to locate these that are near transit, that are either separated by some geographic feature or are far enough away to limit sort of any potential downsides for housing and business districts. So we're taking care, and then we are going to go to, again, LOIs, letter of intents to sit down with neighborhoods. We do have to site these camps, and we are going to site these camps, but we want to do it that keeps the impacts for the surrounding neighborhoods and business districts and community-based organizations to a minimum. Hey, Peggy, Arbor Lodge, great neighborhood. What is the chance of using eminent domain for use of empty property or even partial empty property for empty apartments? I heard that there are many empty apartments owned by Venture. So in the last week when the council had its two hearings on the 5 resolutions, there was discussion around the use of eminent domain, and some questions have been posed to the city attorney by Commissioner Hardesty, and so those questions are into the city attorney around use of eminent domain. Just one thing, we have to pay market rate when either for leasing, the city has the ability to use condemnation or eminent domain to secure leases or to take over a property. Attempted action by the city can be contested in court. So it's not something that doesn't have the ability of the owner that might be subject to eminent domain to push back. But the legal research, again, at the request of Commissioner Hardesty, is underway. Capitalist conglomerates, etc., not to do it from a mom and pop landlord. What, Cody?
Hey, Sam, can I pop in here really quickly? It looks like we have 4 folks with their hands raised. We're going to switch over and listen to some questions verbally.
Sure.
Okay, let's go ahead and call on Tristan Isaac. You should be unmuted now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hey,
can.
Kristen, yeah.
Cool. So my question is, I actually put it in the Q&A, but I guess I'll just ask it here too. Why isn't the decision being made to offer services to existing camps instead of just like, trash pickup, sanitation, hygiene stations, that kind of thing, instead of just rounding people up and interning them in militarized camps?
Yeah. So we don't view this as militarized camps. So we're going to have to disagree with that. But with nearly 800 camps across 146 square miles, constantly moving, we can't get basic services. The county can't get outreach workers for mental health or for substance abuse recovery, which relies on a certain amount of rapport, knowledge of each other. There's no way we would have enough resources to get those services out to that scattering of camps across
But
100.
the camps are only moving because they're being swept.
No, like
They're
I
not
said
moving
before,
them.
there were camps. That's not accurate. I'm happy to give you there were camps across the city, even before with the emergency declarations, we started sweeping. And even if it's 400 camps, that are always moving, there's no way we're ever going to have the resources, or more importantly, have folks stationary enough to be able to have public health workers make a meaningful connection. Thanks.
All right, let's go to Mark Eves. Are you there, Mark? Oh, looks like he dropped out. We'll do Sandra Comstock.
Oh, I'm answering a lot of Sandra's questions. Hi, Sandra.
Hi. Well, I've been in the thick of it. I helped set up the pandemic villages and I run Hygiene for All, and I'm deeply.
Yeah, thank you.
So my question is, well, first off, I wanted to correct something. You've been doing sweeps since 2016, so that's not just since the emergency. But my question is, currently the All Good run SRVs that are run under Dan Ryan's office have extremely high staff turnover, something like 80%. Last spring, when I went to pick someone up, exactly 2 of the on-the-ground staff of like the 10 that were there had been working there more than 2 weeks. Speaking to staff themselves, poor safety, lack of transparent accountability policies for villagers, and no direct site-specific training cause them to try to unionize. How do you intend to address these issues that are already existing in 30-person villages in these 250-person tent camps?
Yeah, so part of the reason that we are going to be going through the process of hiring our own providers, we definitely want to work with local providers, is, and again, Safe Rest Village,
Sorry.
right, managed by the county, is the money that the council is debating right now pays workers a lot more. And
They're actually paid quite well. They're paid $25 an hour and with benefits. So that's not the issue. They weren't unionizing for better pay. They were unionizing.
I'm not arguing with the unionizing. I'm just saying, we looked at the staffing ratio, and we will be paying more because 15-to-1 is a higher staff, is a very industry-wide is a ample staffing ratio. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, let's go to Autumn West.
Guys, ask the question again.
Hi,
Hi, Autumn. How are you?
good. I'm glad the city is finally stepping up, and I really hope this is going to be some people's first step for sobriety and housing. My concern is I live in the Lentz neighborhood, and we currently have a family shelter, a sex offenders rehab housing. We have a large amount of elder housing. We have RV parks here. We have a lot of low income housing. We're one of the most racially diverse neighborhoods. In 2016, the city swept the homeless up into the Springwater corridor in Lentz, creating the second largest homeless camp in the nation. Our multi-use path has been covered with tents and is a kid's route to school that has not been safe for years. As a disabled person, I can't get down the sidewalks a lot of the time. And I want to know, and we're also cited for a Safe Rest Village on Reedway. And I want to know, I want some assurance that you're not going to keep putting everything into the same low income marginalized neighborhoods that the city has used as basically a dumping ground for your problems for years. We really need, and I think this is a great idea. I really want people to be helped, but the same neighborhoods cannot keep being overburdened over and over and over again. So I want to know what you're going to do to ensure equity. And I have a couple of suggestions for spots. One is the Cap landfill in Northeast Columbia that is owned by Metro. And I also suggest the white privilege playgrounds of the Eastmoreland and Rose City golf courses. But what I really want to know is what you're going to do to ensure equity.
Yeah, great point. And council and the mayor have discussed this. And so I should have mentioned it before. Part of the site outreach for looking at site options we're taking into account the existing what exists in each neighborhood to help folks that are providing social services for folks that need them. And you know, this is a craft, and you know, you'll know when we have an LOI for a particular site. Everyone will know. So your point is well taken. We've had discussions about that, and as I do outreach to potential site owners, I definitely take that into account. But the reason why we're not moving directly from a property owner is interested to a lease, and we're taking that sort of letter of intent, is to make sure that I've been around and all over the city for decades, but it always is changing, to your point. And so to have that conversation about the existing burden that neighborhoods are taking. So we want to be very, these are uncomfortable conversations, but we have to have them, and we want to have them transparent. Thanks, Autumn.
All right, let's go to Sarah Taylor.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, I'm from the Lytton neighborhood, and you know, we're a long neighborhood. Can you still see me?
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had considered the police impound yard. I know that there's several in the area. There's one that's right on Highway 30, next to public transportation not far from services in St. John's or the Northwest, and considering a community benefit of when you don't need the campground anymore, turning that into a park space as an eventual community benefit. I think that kind of trade might help, but that would be a beautiful campsite for people.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. I noted it down.
All right, let's go to Mark Eves. Did we get a chance to get to meet you yet? Let's see. Mark, are you there?
All right, let's go back to the chat questions.
How about now? Am I?
Yep, now we can hear you.
You're still here, Mark. Hi.
Hi, I'm the president of the South Portland Business Association.
I know.
I just have two questions. One is a matter of scale. If we have 6 times 100, or maybe even twice that many, how big of an impact does this have on our overall problem? And my second, because I really don't, I heard the number 20,000. I wonder whether this is awfully small for these campsites. My other one is in your display, you said that the campsites will be protected from clear and present danger. Does that mean that there'll be criminal screenings?
So we will, okay, so your first question was, sorry. Your first question was again?
The scale, how big of an impact does 600 people have on our overall problem here? Is this a drop in the bucket, or is this? So
our goal is to get to a total of 3,000 shelter spaces that will accommodate 3,000 folks. So there are indoor shelter beds that the county is that are closed, and the county is working to bring them online. We have the remainder of the safe rest villages that will be opening. And then our goal here is to open these 6 at 250 each to get upwards of around 1,000 shelter beds in the city. Sorry, 3,000 shelter beds in the city.
And how many do we need?
We need more than that, but the goal is also to get to connect more people with treatment, so that we help people get off the street, as we also redouble our efforts with to build affordable housing.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for doing this, by the way, tonight.
Sure.
The other one is the screening.
Yeah.
You're about clear and present danger. How do you determine whether somebody coming in there is dangerous?
Yeah, so this is so these are intended to be low barrier, but again, weapons are not allowed in these camps. They'll be checked, and anyone that presents a clear or present danger, and part of what we will be screening operators of these camps, nonprofit operators, for their ability to do that kind of screening and remove people that, in their estimation, from the camps that are clear or present danger. The reason why these are considered low barriers, we are trying to meet people where they are at in their journey in life, and to connect them with services, so that we have fewer people and more issues, individual issues addressed, and we have fewer people that are houses.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All right, do we have more questions, Cody?
We do. Do you want to keep doing hand raised questions?
Let me do a few on here. How will meals be provided when now the shelters are trying to find providers that sign contracts for food and coming up short? Yeah, we're aware of that, and we have budgeted additional resources to try to engage with meal operators in a way that they will find in their work with us a financial incentive to perform on their contract. Place for RVs is very necessary. Todd, thank you. We definitely need this, and at a couple of the sites that we're talking to. There's an opportunity for RVs that would for RV camping as well, or auto camping as well. But it is very necessary, and I know that Commissioner Ryan and his team are also still working on in a separate track coming up with more safe auto camping spots. Hi, Nancy. Why aren't you already using the old Pamplin-owned cement company parking lot and facility? Thanks for bringing that to our attention. We'll take a look at it. Tom again, the Port and Metro must be partners. They have most space and not adjacent to residential or business. Indeed. Ken, this is Joanne from Lint Strong. Hey, Joanne. Housing team sharing my husband's treasurer Ken's computer. Oh, what type of equity lens is being applied to placement of these camps, internment camps with little or no resources of poor or working class people being expected to share the responsibility of caring for ourselves while other neighbors get pickle courts, skateboard, half pipe, bicycle skills, training areas for their darlings. When will the street groups analysis for ideal placement be applied? It hasn't been for safe rustic villages. This includes access to transportation that runs frequently and late night, access to grocery store and accepts snaps, access to medical facilities, HAP, library, recreational facilities, or people intended to be siloed and pockets of poverty with resources. We're working hard. So I've talked to you already about the approach to looking at evaluating potential sites. We also, as you've heard you might have heard in the mayor's presentation, we're seeking to bring services, whether it's the mobile libraries, to these camps as well. We are looking for sites that are served by transit. We do look at the sort of surrounding availability for shopping. We are taking all those things into consideration. We'll be looking at the existing sort of underlying impacts or impacts to the neighborhood in terms of what kind of social services is the neighborhood already? What's that load? So we are trying to be thoughtful about this but it is a craft, and that's again why we're using, instead of going right to a lease and then talking to the neighborhood, we're doing this kind of outreach. We'll meet again next Wednesday at 4:30. You'll be invited to that because there are some follow-up issues we're not going to be able to. I want to do some research and get back to you based on what you suggested and keep this conversation going. Like I said at the front, everyone on the call assume that there's a designated campsite that's proposed for your area and ask the kind of questions that would give you some solace that we can do this in a safer way as possible. All right, I'm going to skip over repeats. Our neighborhoods who are already hosting low barrier housing alternatives impact for people impacted by houses such as indoor congregate shelters. Yeah, we will be taking a look at that. I'm not going to. It's a art and a craft. I'm not going to say that all of that is all. If there's one, the whole nearby, the whole neighborhood is out. We'll have that conversation and definitely take a look at the load of social services you're already taking. Independent establishment of designated campsites are banning camping. What is the plan to deal with ongoing trash and theft issues? People are routinely walking the streets at night, trying cars. Yes. So I live in Northwest. The trash is obvious for all to see. Well, definitely email me if you've got trash, and then I'll work on get my team to work on whatever specific issue you're talking about, and then also get you numbers beyond me and emails beyond me that we can have you directly conferring with the folks in the field. But yeah, so trash and theft issues. So I went through the perimeter safety, constant perimeter safety of 2 individuals, and then at least for designated the camps, the gathering places nearby, we would be providing money for private security. How will you train them? What qualifications will they have? All good staff is unprepared and turnover. So we're looking at, again, we'll be looking at and talking to local providers. We are also looking at providers that are not currently working here in Portland, if they would expand their work to Portland as well. But I definitely agree, Sandra, with the premise of your question is turnover, tenure, working in these camps should be rewarded and paid for. And we're looking at that. Why are you requiring residents to be referred? Wouldn't walk-ins be a lower barrier option? Why complicate the system? We have found and looked at sort of walk-in camps. There are a lot of problems with that. So that's why we're hiring 50 new outreach workers so that they can, you know, proactively be out in every part of the city. You know, proactively making contact with folks. The reason why the referral is if someone has a level of mental illness that is not conducive to live in a camp. People don't have to, it's not about no mental illness, but if there's a level of you know, danger to themselves or others, then the outreach workers will be looking for other kinds of more appropriate service providers to connect them with, and that's why. If someone shows up at the gate of a camp, then they will, you know, they will be referred to, and the camp personnel itself will start the process of getting them into the system and looking at, you know, whether that camp or another camp would be most appropriate for them, or there are other sort of serviced options for them. Question critical SRD neighborhoods. So that's dystopian. Love to watch a PowerPoint presentation. Slow descent into fascism. Well, Kristen, we're going to have to disagree with that. This is a public health emergency, and you know what resources we do have for mental health, and just I don't know how much time I'm out a lot in houseless camps. The dystopian things that I see right now in our city, and people unnecessarily dying and being harmed because we're not able to get services to them. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on that. Currently, the county's Built for Zero program has a few people in the office. Yeah, we're gonna be investing for our version of Built for Zero that we will do with the county. We're investing more resources into it as part of that $38 million. Conservation housing ratio. I'm going to skip over. Appreciate your comments, Ken, about real estate REITs. So this is essentially a low-level prison with patrols at the edges. No, people will be able to come and go, but we're offering them, but they won't be able to camp other places. Whoa, no drugs or alcohol in camp will be a huge barrier. I understand them, and that's in the common areas. Can't drink in private space, it'll be risky. Great treatment facilitation being available for residents, and groups that receive money from maybe $2. Yeah, we're trying to co-locate. Again, we're trying to bring services to these designated camping areas. Right now, I don't know if you've ever shadowed someone trying to find the right doors and the right paths to get out of houselessness. It's really complicated, overly complicated. And part of co-locating people is bringing services to them. Isolation. The rules are more restrictive than SRV. Yeah, the rules are more restrictive than, say, rest villages, because these are larger camps. If you want most high-functioning people to be willing to stay inside one of these sites, you will have to treat them more like normal citizens and less like clients under paternalistic control. The erroneous assumption the 9 of those who lack housing are basket cases strapped up and is extremely good. No one said 99.99, but I encourage you to go on the mayor's website, and we actually have the research of the growing number of folks that are houseless, that are suffering from mental illness and a rapid rise among all types of populations in Portland about drug dependency and overdoses. Those are the facts. And we're just not going to sit by and see lives and livelihoods ruined like that. Next time we can talk about Built for Zero, KM. A good place to control spaces would be just intense. There'll be common areas. It depends on the size of the area. The tents will be heated. That's our goal. So we'll go from there. So we are running out of time, but we will download all of these questions, and we'll meet again next Wednesday at 4:30 for another session, and continue to answer your questions and sort of take in your option, take in your advice. So Cody, is there any other hand raised?
Yep, we have just a few. Let's go to Barbie Weber. Should be able to speak now.
Thank you very much. This is Barbara Weber, and I wear a few different hats, but tonight I'm here with Shelter Now and also the Central East Side Together. I'm a board member with them. So my question is that are we going to have the same kind of meeting where you're going to, so houseless folks can come in and ask the questions about these encampments the same way that we had this one? Who is going to be responsible for making sure that the voices of the people that are there are represented? Also, too, I asked about the Good Neighbor Agreement. Are folks that are going to be potentially living there be stakeholders in talking about what those Good Neighbor Agreements should look like? So kind of the all-encompassing, who's going to be making sure that people's voices are being heard and their needs are being met? And will there be a Q&A session for them?
Yes, the one of the hardest, so yes, is the short answer. Barbara, thanks for being here and all your hard work on these issues. Yes, some of the hardest work are finding potential sites, and that's why I wanted to get this meeting underway, but we'll definitely be doing outreach with houseless folks. Continue to do outreach with houseless folks. Our outreach workers have definitely been in the camps and
outreach is not what I'm asking about.
Let me finish. In the camps, querying people, but we will continue that, and we'll have meetings like this.
With houseless folks.
Without the what?
I said you're going to have meetings like this with houseless folks.
Yes, absolutely.
Before these camps are developed, so they have a word in how they're putting together.
Yes.
Okay, so they're going to have the same opportunity that the folks here have.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, let's go to Rep. Tui Tran.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for having me, Sam, and thank you for holding these webinar, and thank you to the mayor. I wanted to say a couple of things. As we move forward in this plan, please don't forget what is happening to our community now. I hope you will double up on keeping our business safe and our neighborhood safe, and not wait until this plan happens and then, put in the extra effort. Secondly, I want to echo Barbara's comment. Shelter Now can pop up at this time in community center, in churches and such. So I hope you will lean on the support of our community to help you along the way, because it can pop up very quickly and people can be served very fast, especially as the weather turns cold. Thirdly, please think of the small business owner when you're doing your hiring for these vendors. if possible, have a coalition of smaller businesses so that you can spread the money around.
Great
Okay,
idea.
Sam?
Thanks, Representative. Great feedback. Appreciate it very much. And thanks for representing Portland.
All right, let's go to the last one. John Carr.
Hi, this is John Carr with the South Tabor Neighborhood Association. I'm just curious how
John.
large of a footprint one of these sites would have. What sort of parcels are you looking at?
Yeah, another great question. I would say 3 acres, 3 to 4 acres. So that gives you a sense. We don't want them. Part of the other is being able to potentially, some of the other things we're looking at is right now, I talked early on about, that warehouse that folks stuff or storage or where folks tents and stuff they can't carry with them into a built shelter, into say a press village. We store them for them. We do want enough, if we could have storage on site so folks can access their storage. So we are looking at these larger sites. The say press villages are 1.5, 1 to 2 acres to give you a sense. So we're looking more at 3 to 4. Bigger if we can get it. All right. Again, thank you, everybody. Thanks, John. Appreciate your time this evening. Again, we'll email out this PowerPoint. I'm going to make a few refinements to it, so I'll email it out to you on Monday. Tomorrow is a day off for city government, and I'm going to take it. And we will meet again. We'll send out another link for Wednesday at 4:30. Again, really appreciate it. I know you've got lots of ways you can spend your time, and really appreciate you spending 90 minutes with us. So thank you.